3, 2, 1. You are listening to 910 AM Superstation. The future of radio. You are listening to 910 AM Superstation.
The best in the city.
The future of radio. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit. 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
And good morning. You're listening to Robert Ficano at 910 AM Superstation. We have with us this morning the Police Commissioner, Willie Burton, and Scotty Boman, also from Wayne County Community College, and Professor extraordinaire with some of his opinions here. Commissioner Burton has worked with some of the guests, as I have, in the past. The first guest that we're going to have in the first hour is going to be Mr. Jalen. Go ahead, Willie. Why don't you introduce him?
Good morning. Name is Garrett. Senior at Department of youth activist. Has a peace rally coming up. So I'll go about that. How came about the whole peace rally is more important. You think about the peace law war that just took place. And we want to get some feedback, hear some thoughts and happens and many of the calls.
Okay, well, Jalen, you're on with Bob Ficano, with Scotty Boman, and Police Commissioner Willie Burton. Jalen, welcome to 910 AM. You can call us, by the way, and at 313-778-7600. That's 313-778-7600. Jalen, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning. I know it's a little bit early here. You're a student. Where are you a student, Jalen?
Emerald King High School.
Okay, and why don't you give us some of your background and some of your activity? I understand you're quite the activist, and in what you're doing, that you helped with some of the walkouts that occurred over the past couple of weeks. And why don't you give us a little background on what you've been doing?
Yes, so again, I'm a community activist and a motivational speaker, and I had started dealing with politics in 10th grade. It was an assignment that my economics teacher had gave us, and the assignment was to go to a city council meeting and ask questions. So around in 10th grade that year, DPS was going through a crisis, and I went and asked the mayor at a town hall meeting and asked him, where are we going to get the money to keep our schools open? How are we going to keep these schools open, and where are we going to get new materials for these classrooms? And they led me to an intern with Mayor Mike Duggan, and it led me to many more opportunities here in the city of Detroit. And I haven't always been active in the community here. I was always a troubled child, so I decided to start a nonprofit called Detroit Life Experience around the same year. And now I have a mentoring program at A.O. Holmes Elementary School. I have my third annual Stop the Violence Peace Rally coming up May 18th. And basically what we do is we bring the youth together with law enforcement to bridge the gap with youth and the police. And we try and find different ways how we can interact with law enforcement instead of it be a negative way. And so the past 2 years have been a great success. We have people from Alicia Shabazz to Commissioner Willie Bird, Deputy Chief Bettie to Mayor Duggan, and just bring everyone together to see what issues can we fix inside these different parts of the community. And so we choose different parts of the community to host certain events and to host the Violence Peace Rally.
What what grade are you in now?
I'm a senior.
Okay, and what are your plans for the future? I mean, in terms of after you graduate,
I will be joining DPD.
you want to become a Detroit police officer?
Yes.
Oh, good for you. And so now you've been active in some of these marches. Obviously, you spurred on by what you saw with the students. These past month with some of the walkouts and protests concerning guns and things like that.
Yes. So one thing I did want to say is that we had a phenomenal superintendent, Dr. Bettie, that, if he's willing to, help out the students and letting their voices be heard. I mean, even back in 10th grade, I don't think we ever would have got, permission to walk out of the school during learning time at all. And so that was a big difference between his leadership and the person that was leading schools back then. But we had a meeting with Dr. B, who does meetings with the school leaders from each high school, and we meet up and talk about different issues. And one of the issues in March was the shooting that happened in Florida. And we wasn't just walking out because the shooting in Florida was walking out because of all the shootings from Las Vegas, from everywhere around the world. And so this walkout was basically telling law enforcement that we won't stop until we actually get control of these guns to not let them decide our schools.
Jalen, what are some of the recommendations coming from the students concerning guns and controlling the gun violence?
And so some of the concerns is that students don't want guns inside of schools. They don't feel that teachers should be armed because you're supposed to be at school to learn, not to focus on a teacher having a gun on her hip, whether or not she's going to use it or not. And so those are the two major concerns. Before we try to put guns inside schools, we need to figure out different alternatives that we can use to prevent guns inside school, like sensors at each doors, and stuff like that, or, have a DPD officer present at a time. I mean, yes, DPD has had 50-something threats within, a week or two, but you only have police present the days of the threats. I mean, we got to continue with having presence at these schools because we never know, what might happen at any time. And that, DPD, the schools, they should have had schools shut down when these schools, they should have had them closed. Excuse me. They should have had the schools closed when they got the threat. But instead, they kept the schools open and still allowed the kids to come to school. Now, we all know in other school districts, they got a threat, they close them down. Why not DPS? Why take the risk of putting the kids in danger like that?
So you think the policy should be that they close down the school when there is a threat?
Yes, they should. Because no way that these schools should be open and kids are still going to school. If you get a threat like that, they say they took it serious, but that's it. It really didn't seem like it because you still kept the schools open.
So I don't know if DPD, I've not heard of one of the schools closing down on a threat, but DPD's security is a little bit probably more intense than I've seen in some of the suburban schools. I mean, in terms of, people walking in and some of the searches and things like that, although all of them are stepping up, and I see the legislature just passed some legislation that has greatly enhanced the security around the schools. That's part of that with it. So was there a threat at your high school and you felt that the school should have been closed down because of the threat?
Yeah, so King, Cass, mainly all the DPS schools was threatened on a website called Flipsy. The kids think that it's private, like you could just post an answer and the kids won't know it's you, but with DPD, they will find you in any way. And so the schools was not shut down. It was still open, but, why take that risk if something really did, would have happened, it's still back on now.
Well, tell us a little bit now. You organized some of the walkouts by some of the students?
Yeah, so the walkout first led to a meeting with Dr. Bettie, and so the other 7 high schools said they wanted to participate, and so what we did was we got together, we talked about it, we chat with each other, and we got it approved by Dr. Dody. He provided transportation and gave us permission. And so what King, everybody was supposed to come to King, but it was a big mix-up there. That's a whole nother story, so we're not going to talk about that. So the other schools met us at the Spirit of Detroit, but the King students, we marched from King to the Spirit of Detroit, and met the other schools there. And when I say it was a phenomenal time to actually, see the kids walk out for something positive instead of walking out for something negative. And so, the kids learned something. Some of the kids wasn't aware of, why they was walking out. So we had to explain to them, this is why we're walking out, and everything. Yeah.
So, what do you feel that is some of the solution? Are you actually talking to members of Congress? Have you met with your congressional representatives, like Brenda Lawrence, and the 13th district is open right now with the step down of Congressman Conyers. Have you been talking like to Debbie Stabenow, to Gary Peters, or any of those? They're the ones that can really influence this whole gun debate.
So we have been talking with people about seeing how can we bring guns inside schools, how can we keep our kids safe inside these schools. DPS is already, we want to come up, but people already have their mindset on what is DPS, and so we have to, change that mindset of people and find solutions to help DPS improve, to help keep the safety of the students. And so, I believe that before we try and put guns inside these schools, to find different alternatives like census, hire some off-duty DPD officers to be inside these schools. I believe that the only people that should be armed is a police officer. Not a security guard, but a police officer.
Okay, well, that's interesting because one of our panelists here is Scotty Boman. And Scotty, you have a little bit different view on arming, teachers in the classroom.
Yeah, well, about 95 to 98% of the shootings, mass shootings similar to the one that happened in Florida, occur in gun-free zones. And schools are among those gun-free zones under the federal law. Has your school addressed the fact that there's this disparity that makes schools into prime targets for mass shooters by making them gun-free zones, wherein people who are allowed to legally carry elsewhere are not able to carry at schools, and that way an offender realizes they're not going to use much of their
Jalen, obviously you don't think that teachers should be armed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bowman was just asking your own opinion. Do you think that shooters are more attracted to schools because they know that nobody's going to be armed within the building?
Not all the time, because you still have to look at Michigan and Florida. They had off-duty police officers.
They had a police officer there. In fact, he didn't respond. He did not. He was at the building. He didn't. From my understanding, he didn't. Yeah, which is
right.
Counterintuitive to what should have happened.
And so, teams have 72 doors in there. 72 doors, only one is being used for entrance, and at the end of the day, it's 3 doors being used for exiting the building.
Do you have metal detectors at your school?
We have metal detectors, and they are built in inside the wall, but we only have metal detectors at the front entrance. No, at the front and at the ninth grade entrance. So it's two. But at the same time, you gotta look at what happened down south a couple of weeks after the march of the National School Walkout. There's a teacher who had a gun, and the gun went off, but there wasn't no kids inside the classroom. So what are we gonna do about that? And the week before the teacher shot that gun, it was a letter. It was a threat against the school. It was a letter inside the same classroom that the same teacher shot the gun inside the class. So then we gotta look at, what was this teacher's intentions? Because not only that, we found the threatening letter in the class, and then you shooting off a gun inside the class. So, what are we gonna do?
You raised some interesting questions. I know we have some callers that are attempting to call in 313-778-7600. I want to talk to you, Jalen. I don't know, Scotty, what do you think? He makes a case that here you had a teacher down in Florida that had a gun. It accidentally discharged within the facility.
Well, in California, a teacher
Yeah.
had a gun where he accidentally discharged it. It was actually a reserve visa. So I think there's what the problem you bring up is one that could happen with anybody, including a police officer, your state school, which is that, yes, occasionally people that we would otherwise entrust to police to be responsible make mistakes without other consequences. I don't think that really is something unique to teachers. In fact, it is as well. So there is a trade-off that whenever you're looking at protection of the outgoing group. So there's not a 100% perfect solution. All
Right.
but 95 to 98% of the so it seems that the need is very high to address that. Yes, it's not a cure-all, and there will always be people that you would assume would just a bad individual. It's clear that we don't need guns inside our classrooms. It's also clear we don't need guns inside our schools. If anything, I'd like to see teachers being armed with supplies and resources. They teachers need to educate our children. What happens when a teacher uses a gun on a student, or a student get a hold of a gun? We don't want those unwanted tragedies happening in our schools or any other schools across America. So the simple solution: no guns in classrooms, no guns in schools.
Right. And
Go ahead, Jalen.
and that, as we, speak about, these school shootings and everything, when any Republican and Democrat choose to even have guns inside schools, they shouldn't even be appointed the next term. They should, because at this time, and it's 2018, at this time, we have to figure out, we already don't have a good president. And, we're really, tied up right now because most of the people are Republicans. So we have to fight this way, to make sure guns aren't in school, the president and for teachers to be armed. Anybody thinks that teachers should be armed, they shouldn't be in office anymore. So this time, now you're losing their trust.
Well, one of the problems, though, Jalen, is that many times young people are the people that don't go out to vote. Statistically, we know that, usually the older you are, seniors, usually go out to vote, and they're usually the ones that many times have the influence of what happens. you have that opportunity now that's coming up in 2018. You'll be 18 come this November.
I'm 18 already.
Okay, you're 18 already, so you'll be able to vote for who you want in Congress and in the gubernatorial race and things like that. If you're 18 already, you can always you can vote in the primary that's coming up as well with it. I'll tell you what, Jalen, why don't you hold on? We're about to go to break. John and Jerry, I know you're on the lines. We're going to take your calls as soon as we get back from the break and continue to have Jalen on talking about his experience and what he's done with leading some of the student walkouts that we've had here the past couple of weeks. We'll be right back.
Greetings, Detroit. This is Donnell White, your Executive Director of the Detroit Branch NAACP, inviting everyone to join us on Sunday, May 6th at the Cobo Conference Center for the 63rd Annual Fight for Freedom Fund Dinner. It's an iconic assembly of people who believe in civil rights and social justice. Our keynote speaker is United States Senator Cory Booker. This is an event you cannot miss. For tickets, tables, and sponsorships, please call 313-871-2087.
Every weeknight at 9 p.m. is something new and something fresh.
This is Todd Corser, and I want you to check out my show. Listen in and call every week as we explore government and hot topics. Tune in, raw and uncut.
This is attorney Michael Schwartz at 9:10 a.m. Superstation, and you can hear me every Tuesday night starting at 9 p.m.
Hello, Detroit. This is attorney Crystal Crittenden, and please tune in to my new show, The Truth Matters, on 9:10 a.m. Superstation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charlene Mitchell, your host of Mind Your Business. Listen to my show live every Thursday from 9 to 11 p.m.
I'm Reverend Maya Lisa Reynolds, inviting you to listen to Mama Maya Speaks Friday evenings from 9 until 11 p.m. discussing education, motivation, and inspiration on Superstation 9:10 a.m.
Different names, different voices, but the same energy. 9:10 a.m. Superstation, the voice of Detroit. 9:10 a.m. Superstation is the voice of Detroit and the talk of the town. Weekdays, weeknights, weekends, and everything in between. If you want national topics, we have it.
Is this DACA challenge that the president has presented? He rolled back the...
He hasn't done it yet. Anybody who says that they know what he's going to do before it happens is making a mistake.
Local discussions, we have that too.
You know, the Pistons, the Red Wings, those arenas, they were made for people primarily in the suburbs, I think, coming in.
Entertainment and relationships? Listen up. And if you thought we were restricted to only the radio, think again. You can hear all of this on 9:10 a.m. as well as on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube Live, YouTube Red, and Facebook Live. That's right. Download the 9:10 a.m. Superstation app in the Apple, Android, or Windows App Store today and stay connected to the best station in town.
Got more than the water tower. A superstation pushing 50,000 watts of power. 9:10 a.m. is the future of radio. 24/7 keeping out this is the place to go. From the heart of the pit, got the talk that be hitting with the host that can speak about the streets and
you can bump it in your car, bump it on your phone, on your website, at home, or on the road. Talking 24/7, take it wherever you go. 9:10 a.m. is the future of radio.
9:10 a.m. Superstation is in a league of its own. We are the only talk radio station in the Metro Detroit area sensitive to the African American community.
Make sure you join us on what station?
9:10 a.m. to Superstation.
9:10 a.m.
9:10 a.m.
On 9:10 a.m. Superstation.
9:10 a.m. Superstation, Metro Detroit's only African American based talk radio station. 9:10 a.m. Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I absolutely love this radio station. This station gets me through the work week.
And we don't just show love to the callers. We see the comments and the posts too.
I'm always on the go, so being able to watch all my favorite hosts on 9:10 a.m. mobile app is amazing.
So when you think of 9:10 a.m. Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media.
And good morning. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. I'm here with Robert Ficano. And we have Scotty Boman from Wayne County Community College, as well as Police Commissioner Willie Burton. And we're talking with Jalen. Jalen is an activist from King High School, led some of the walkouts that you see with the students and guns that they're involved. Now we have some callers. Jalen, I'm sure you don't mind. Some of the callers are going to chime in here as well. John, you're on with Jalen, our guest, and with those of us here in the studio.
Well, good morning, Jalen. You made a comment that really struck my attention. You said Director Stephen Bettie had you guys walking out of class. Well, he's an adult, and you said a lot of students didn't know why they were walking out of class. They just walked out. Now, this is an adult leading something. Now, what if he had you walk into an open pit? Did you ever think about where you were going? A lamb lead the slaughter. These are adults affecting you young guys, and you want to be a policeman. Well, that's okay, but these are adults. I don't know. I think you're missing a little things here. Think about it a little bit, okay? You said that who had us walk out?
Jalen, you're talking about who was the principal, I think, that was approving the walkout, or you said how it was cooperating?
Director Bettie said.
Okay, the superintendent.
Yeah, and he said that the kids didn't know they were walking out; they just joined. I mean, it's a sheep going to slaughter. Just think about things. Grow up a little bit. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jalen, did you feel that you had your own wherewithal of what you wanted to do and why you wanted to walk out, and you understood what was going on probably because of the gun debate?
Yeah, so me and the other students that, we collaborate, we all knew, why we was walking out and, how we was going to, let other kids know. So at that time, some kids knew, some kids was telling their friends, and so once we got to the city of Detroit, we was giving them the knowledge of different school shootings that have been going on, and why are we walking out, and this are we here for, to make sure guns aren't allowed in schools, and make sure teachers not armed inside our schools, and how can we continue to fight to make sure these things doesn't happen. So after the kids left from the walkout, they knew that, why they walked out. They knew, things that they told me that they didn't even know. They didn't even know there was so many school shootings happening, just, all the time,
Okay, so they were aware that the shootings were occurring and the reason why they were walking out and things like that. We have a number of callers here, Jalen. We'll be taking them. Bettie, you're on with Jalen, Bob Ficano, Scotty Boman, and with our police commissioner, Willie Burton.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Ficano. It's hard for me to call you Mr. Ficano after being the county exec.
I've been called a lot of names, Bettie. Mr. Ficano will do. Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to chime in because, first of all, thank you, the young student from King High School. I am a graduate of King High School. I am also the present state rep for that district, which I grew up in. But I am the only state legislator that I know that has been a former teacher and a former police officer. And I like to stress the balance in terms of student safety, teacher safety, and also parental safety. It's important that you know that it is critical that we protect the men and women in blue who have to come into this situation we saw with Parkland, that we protect the students. We have bills in the House now on red flag legislation. I'm against part of it because I want it to be amended. Due process is number one.
Okay, Bettie, why don't you explain to us what red flag means in terms of the legislation?
Well, one of the reps had put this bill out, I was told, for the last 3 sessions. And what it involves is anyone who is mentally challenged in a family member, they can request that the police come out, intervene, and take the handgun or any weapon that this potential mentally challenged person has in the house or in its possession. That's it in a nutshell. And I think before we, the police, come into your house and take your weapons, there should be an evidentiary hearing, because it's important that due process in terms of the Constitution is there. And then also for our officers' safety. I told them this is redundant. As a police officer, and you know this too, Mr. Ficano, when we come to a house, we ask, are there any weapons here? Where are they? What kind? That's a question that's asked right away. And so this red flag legislation is nice, but it's something that police do as standard procedure.
But I'm sorry, Betty, does this mean that in the legislation, if there's a red flag, if somebody says there's a red flag, does this go towards them purchasing a gun or anything, or does the family tell law enforcement, or how does it work?
Well, the red flag legislation is saying that the weapons would be confiscated, that that person supposedly, that the family member says he has in his possession or he has access to. When I say he, it could be a she too.
All right, Betty. Well, we appreciate you calling in.
I wanted to add to that too. When I taught school, it was very hard as a police officer to show up into the classrooms with my weapon. First, I used to wear it on my side. Then, when I gathered 7th graders, I started putting it in my desk drawer, locking it, and then that became an issue. So then I started putting it in my closet and locking it up. Teachers should not have weapons. Teachers should teach our children, and police should come in and exercise their powers and duties as a police. I think it's an oxymoron, and I thank Jason for being an advocate for this. The community must be safe. Law enforcement, teachers, and parents and children are all partners when they walk outside of their households. Again, I'm your favorite state representative, former police officer, former teacher, Betty Cook Scott, and I'm at his disposal, Jason, anytime, any day.
Okay, thanks, Betty. We got a fan there, Jalen. Sounds like she wants to follow up and make sure that your career is taken on, especially with Detroit PD.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And I'm actually, I live in Betty Cook Scott's district, and it's a pleasure to have her as my representative, and I'm very, and she's done a lot for our community, and I really do appreciate the addition of the idea of amending this to make sure that there is sufficient due process when applying the red flag law that's being considered in the legislature.
Okay, Ron, you're on with Bob Ficano, with Commissioner Willie Burton, with Scotty Boman, and our special guest, Jalen from King High School. Ron?
Hello?
Yes, you're on, Ron.
This is Vern.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vern?
Yes.
Okay.
Jalen, I was just thinking, maybe your tactics should be having a sit-in instead of a walk out of school, because we need you guys in school to get as much knowledge as you can. Don't walk out. Sit in. What do you think about that as a form of protest? A sit in the school to protest this gun situation.
Well, Vern, if you're worried about whether they continue on with the protests and stuff, sitting or walking out, either one, they're not engaging with the teacher at that point.
Right. So it's not a protest; it's a rally. It's two different meanings between the protest and the rally. So this rally for us walking out is that this got national attention. It didn't get city or state attention. It got national attention, and the King rally from King to the third Detroit. State police came inside King a day before the walkout, and he was there to speak to some students, some 9th graders, and he was like, a teacher was telling him, administration was telling him about, us having a rally coming up for the national walkout. That he was like, oh yeah, King, yeah, you guys are being talked at around the state, up at the Capitol and everything. Like this rally has been talked about everywhere. So King March has been talked about for mainly before National Walkout even happened that day. And so the kids knows about, the education. And so that day, many teachers, didn't have a lesson that day because they knew that that day, particular, that it wouldn't be that many kids inside the schools because of National School Walkout Day. And so they wasn't walking out on any work or anything because teachers already knew what was about to happen that day. So they was already planned to, not have any work.
Okay, thanks, man. Thanks for calling in. Jerry, you're on with Bob Ficano and with Police Commissioner Willie Burton and Scotty Boman and our special guest Jalen from King High School. Hi.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr.
Good morning, Jerry.
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it, and I want to, say good morning to all your distinguished guests. Mr. Robert Ficano, I addressed it to Mr. Jalen. Mr. Jalen, I do respect you as a student. I support all the students, all the teachers, all over our nation. The only thing, I'll be honest with you, I do agree with the previous caller when they say they are against the walkout. We like our students to be walk into the school, not to walk out. There is other issues. There are some students, they take advantage of the walkout, first of all, to skip the classes or to certain agenda. So I do believe the students, they belong inside the school, inside the classes. We do have a solution to get your message. First of all, I ask all the students to write to your representatives, to your congressmen, to your senators, and put more pressure on them, and that pressure will affect Washington, the legislature over there. In the meantime, locally, we could ask the police commissioner, the authority, to put severe punishment for any person trying to do a threat against the safety of the students and the teacher and the school. I don't care about the threat if it is joke or if it is a hoax. You threat, you are causing a chaos. So those people who they do the threat, they should be punished. And this way they will think about it twice before they think about any threat against any school. Okay. I want to wish you good luck, Jalen.
Thank you, Jerry, and we appreciate it. Okay, thanks. Jalen, any reaction to it? To what, what you said?
Mr. Jerry, so during this rally from King to the state of Detroit, we were escorted by the 3rd Precinct DPD, and that our whole time walking, I knew the path that we was going down to go to the city of Detroit. The restaurants and stuff that's nearby, by our walking distance, we already set up things to make sure that if any students come inside here, to reject them from coming in, because they're not walking out of schools and to go have lunch and go eat there. So everything was already in place. And yes, we did have 2 girls who tried to go inside IHOP, but they came right back up. I told them, I was like, look, you can't go in there. We already set up everything, so there's no point of you going in there and then coming right back out. And so they went in there, they tried it, so they got sent right back out. And I asked them what happened. We couldn't go in there. I said, see, I already had things in place to make sure, they wasn't walking out because they were
sounds like you're trying to plan it out. Well, we have several callers here. Hold on, Jalen. Next we have Eric. Eric, you're on with Jalen.
Hi, Jalen. How you doing this morning? I got a simple question to ask, and I don't think anybody's ever asked it. I've been listening to these radio shows. Do these kids realize that they're killing themselves? These aren't older adults going into these schools and doing the shootings. These are all kids and their peers doing it, except for Sandy Hook. I find it kind of weird. They're protesting against guns, but they're killing each other. The kids, look at the age group. There's nobody 50 or 60 going in there, 40 going in there shooting up schools. It's the kids that they're going to school with. They're shooting themselves. That's a bigger question to answer than I think getting rid of the guns.
You know, one of the things that I recall, Jalen working with students not only at King High School but with other schools. There's a lot of bullying that's still taking place in DPS and other school districts, and I know that Jalen's been on the front line of working with students and also working with law enforcement and also working through the Honorable Mayor Mike Duggan's office and things of that nature. And Jalen's doing a really good job over there. But oftentimes you hear people say enough is enough.
Well, yeah, and one of the issues that comes up, some of the youngsters in some of these cases were bullied by other students that were in the school. Is that leading to them, if they have perhaps some mental health issues, does that sort of push them over the edge sometimes to take violence as a path to try to, get even or to remedy it, which raises one of the issues.
Once again, the kids are doing the bullying. The parents aren't doing the bullying. It's the kids. The kids are looking for an answer. It's right in front of them. They're responsible for it.
No, we don't know what. We don't know. So we don't know what's going on.
Okay, Jalen, go ahead, Jalen. Jalen, go ahead and finish.
What's going on.
Okay, all right.
So we don't know what's going on inside people's houses. It's probably is, the parents, probably not showing their child any attention, or probably that child getting abused at home. We don't know what's going on at people's houses. And so the kids come to school and they probably had a bad morning between them and their parents, and then they come to school to another kid, pushing their butt and, bullying them. And so it's two different things that, that can lead towards that. And so, and as we talk about, mental health, in all cases, it's not mental health. And one thing that I wanted to bring up was that, in June of 2016, Orlando shooting, 49 killed. October 2017, Las Vegas, 58 killed.
Right, those were adults in outside of school settings that were
at what age were they? I know I'm talking about people from 35 down to 1 year old. Those are the ones that doing shooting in the schools.
We're not just talking about shooting for gun safety. Gun safety goes on. We're talking about having gun safety all parts of the nation, not just schools, businesses, everywhere. And so these shootings...
Yeah, I know, but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what the got started.
All right, there's a distinction here. There's a distinction being made between someone in Las Vegas, when he was at a hotel and he was shooting at the concert versus youngsters, shooting at schools and stuff like that. Eric, I appreciate you calling in. We have a number of callers as well. Go ahead.
We're not going to beat down on Jalen Harris. He's doing his part as a community activist, that's speaking up against gun violence and also asking for, more gun control and regulations, not only here in Michigan, but across America. He's doing his part. It's time for lawmakers to do their job to protect all students, because enough is enough. We are fired up, and we are ready to push for stronger and tougher gun control in this country. I think something positive came out of the caller's original point, and I just wanted to get onto that for real quick, that there is a problem with the way in which people interact. Regardless of what tools exist, the point is that people are escalating up to using violence, physical aggression, and guns ultimately, instead of resolving things. Young people need to get back to, I remember when I was growing up, parents would discipline their children for being abusive of other children, and also at the same time, children learned a little more self-esteem, and we need to get back to making students more secure in themselves so that sticks and stones won't break their bones and names won't hurt them, and that instead they learn how to resolve their discussions in a, or their conflicts in a civilized manner without resorting to violence. I mean, like here, I'm sitting here, I disagree with, you know, some of my friends here on some points, and they disagree with me on some things, but we don't resort to violence. We don't even resort to being, you know, crude to each other. We have different opinions, and we try to deal with that in a rational manner.
We have a number of callers here. Let's get to another one. Proud parent, you're on with Jalen.
Yes, hi. Hello, everyone. I want to kind of say that I commend the young man, Mr. Jalen, for being conscious about what's going on. And you spoke about nationally. And I don't think the college are beating up on him. We're having a real serious conversation, and people are passionate about it. My thing is, the crisis that's going on in the city of Detroit, Mr. Jalen, where you live, okay? We need to address that issue. There's major things that are going on with our students in the city of Detroit. Let's focus strongly in that area before we go outside nationally and try to address a major issue. But let's focus on what's going on in Detroit. Our students are not showing up for first hour class. And as you probably know, Mr. Jalen, that is going on. There's bullying going on also in particular schools. Let's try to focus on, seriously, what's happening to our students here. Not that we cannot go out nationally, but let's stand up strongly and advocate what's going on in the city of Detroit. There's a crisis here, and we need to address our backyard first. Here's what I'm kind of really wanting to say, that I commend you for being conscious and be more conscious about what's going on in your city. That's something that you can really, really wrap your arms around with city leaders. If you have the mayor here, use it in that particular area right now. There's a crisis. There's students going on in the city of Detroit. Young man, thumbs up to you to do something major for your backyard right now.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling in. Go ahead, Willie.
You know, I'm looking at something right now on CNN. Article was just published April 20th this year. It says there has been an average of one school shooting every week this year. And, you know, so the problem is not just here. This is going on everywhere. This is a national crisis. You know, April 20th, Cola, Florida, a student at Forest High School was wounded and a suspect taken into custody. April 12th, Wrighton, Missouri, a man was shot in the stomach in a parking lot. April 9th, Gloversville, New York, a student shot another student with a BB gun. March 20th, Lexington Park, Maryland, an armed student shot two others. This goes on. And then, you know, bring it a little closer back here to Michigan. You know, there was an incident at Mount Pleasant, Michigan, up in central Michigan, you know, where two people were shot to death inside of a dormitory.
It seems now that unless it's over 40 or 50 students sometimes that are affected, sometimes it's not even making the national news because unfortunately we're becoming numb and it's becoming too common.
I've been shot with a BB gun, and it didn't make the news. In fact, I don't think my parents even found out.
Okay, Bayri, you're on with Jalen.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell, and good morning to you and your guests, and the Chief of Police, and also Jalen. Jalen, let me say this. First of all, let me give my high power all the daughter over me and them and those who know that have the faith, that trusted him, and know who he is, and have the will to give them the will to do what they're supposed to do. That is right. Jalen, you listen to me well. You're doing a marvelous job, and I'm going to lift you up on my shoulders. And may God continue to bless you and guide you into your direction the way he wants you to go. Jalen, your trials and your tribulations, you count them all joy. I'm saying this for all of the callers that may be calling in and listening, may be trying to deter you. Back in the 60s and the 70s, that's when the young people walked out. Young people took control of things. And if you don't take control of things now, the elderly people is wading in the water. They're on their way down.
So if you don't do what you're doing and have the young people to follow you and to work with the police of this city, I want to commend Detroit Police Department, first of all, another thing, for not the shooting that, doing what other shootings was doing of the other, if you know what I'm talking about, the officers, but y'all doing a marvelous job. But getting back to you, Jalen, man, you're doing a marvelous job. You continue to do that, go abroad with it. The young lady was at the Washington thing. You need to contact her. You need to bind in with all of this. It's the call of your duty to do what you're doing to bring this country back in order. And if you don't go with the armed forces and the young people, we will have no United States. Jalen, may God bless you. Ficano, keep doing what you're doing. Jalen, your trials and your tribulation, count them all joy. Put your foot down and keep stepping, young man. I love the winner. I just had to call in to let you support you.
Thanks. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Favorite, thanks for calling. Jalen, you got a fan there that's following you. Looks like next up we have Tracy. Tracy, you're on with Jalen.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Those are some funky glasses, Mr. Boman. I love them to death. And I also want to say thank you to Commissioner Willie Burton. I did attend your community meeting in Elmwood Park, and it was very informative as well. As to Jalen, I don't know if you are aware of the 1966 walkout, but in 1966, 2,000 kids did walk out from Northern High School as a result of racism. So if you're walking out as a result of gun violence, I applaud your efforts, definitely. And finally, I wouldn't want to have teachers in the classroom with guns, because we know a lot about diminishing cognitive abilities as people age now based upon brain scans. And so if something was to ever happen, and then, because we love to sue, somebody asked for a brain scan of a teacher who accidentally shot someone, I just see, the parent possibly owning the school district. So, thank you very much for taking my call.
All right. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Marcia. Marcia, you're on with Jalen.
Good morning, everybody. And see, that's what I'm talking about. We should not have teachers in schools, teacher assistants or something like me. Because, this incident happened in the school where a teacher and I was trying to take a young man, 16 years old, trying to wait for the police to come to try to get him off another kid. And suppose we had been strapped with guns. Those kids we were trying to push a group of kids back, and the other group, they could have unsnapped those guns off from us, and it would have been bloody. But young man, we support you 100% with David Hall. You all are channeling the Sixers. We in the Sixers stopped the Vietnam War, and we got civil rights for everybody. And you keep doing what you're doing. You stay focused. We do. We want common sense gun laws, okay? You all are the ones, we depend on you all to get out here in the streets. And David Hall, he explained, these politicians take money to take rights away from us people. And if David Hall is not but 19 years old, and he understands that these politicians take money from corporations and bankers to vote against the people. And you keep doing. You stay out in the streets. We did it in the 60s, and listen, they had to pull out of Vietnam. So you stay focused. Now, let me tell you this also. We have the new Center of Mental Health places have closed. And Detroit East Mental Health place. Now, we got mental ill people out here. This place used to take care between 5,000 and 10,000 patients. They no longer have a place to go. And you think that we're supposed to have people and teachers out here with guns, and you close down mental health places here in the city of Detroit? People get on it. 5,000 to 10,000 people.
Yeah, Marcia, I have a friend that works at Detroit Wayne County Mental Health, and he told me this past week that they were closing down some of the centers, and they're sort of surprised by that. It's almost like history repeating itself. They went through and they closed Lafayette Clinic and some of the other locations, and then they've tried to to set up these centers and things. And now the centers are starting to close, and we know that mental health is a big issue.
Last year it was Detroit East. They closed. And the new one just closed, New Center Mental Health, and they was taking care of between 5,000 and 10,000 people. Also, all the people workers there lost their jobs. People, we got to be aware that woman 60 years old, but young man, you stay focused. You all got to get in the streets. These politicians don't understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcia.
We support you 100%.
Thank you, Jalen. You got another fan there that's talking to you. We only have some closing minutes here. Willie, you wanted to say something?
To the lady to the caller just called in about the mental health facilities and things of that nature. We understand it is a problem going on here about the 16 mental health hospitals closed in 1997. I want you to know that, listening to Detroit residents about these opening up these facilities, we started a task force, and by partnering with Wayne State University, you had Dr. Aaron Carr-Martin over at Wayne State, along with our next guest coming up, DPOA President Mark Diaz at the table, as we was addressing the mental health crisis here. So, and we brought together a lot of health providers and law enforcement, local and state officials to the table as well to address these concerns from the public, because it's a problem that's going on. Families are reaching out, and and oftentimes you hear people say enough is enough. So we want to roll up our sleeves and we actually want to do something. It was actually my good friend Bob here. He's like, hey, let's do something. So Bob has been advising me on how to
handing out gun locks and everything else. Okay, we're being told there we got to wrap it up for this hour. Next hour, beginning at 9 o'clock, we're going to have Mark Diaz, who is the president of Detroit Police Officers Association, their union. Jalen, I want to thank you so much for coming on, for your activism and what you've been doing. I understand that you were accepted at Michigan State University, but you still want to be a Detroit PD and you want to go to the academy right away and, go into that career. So good luck to you, and we appreciate you coming on the air here.
Thank you very much, and I will be running for mayor in 2021.
Okay. Very good, very good. Okay, thanks, Jalen. We appreciate it. Good luck to you. Next hour, we're going to have the esteemed Mark Diaz, who is the president of the DPOA, and some of the issues concerning his officers. But perhaps he'll be able to talk to us, too, about some of the paintball issues, along with Commissioner Burton here, about what we see that's really starting to get a lot of attention. I didn't realize how much it was happening in the streets, so I just heard some of the press accounts over the past week. Stay with us. We're going to be back with Mark Diaz at the beginning of the hour.
Take more time with you, be a friend of you. This is Reverend Sharpton, and on the last Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton.
We have here now sitting with us Melanie Campbell.
In this 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination, and understanding, that justice is at the core, and that we have to speak and live truth to power, live it in a way that we see change taking place. And our young high school kids are coming out there, kids 11 years old. I went to the March for Our Lives.
Yeah.
I was in the area, and I just went to hang out and feel the energy. And I'm going to tell you, I walked from the beginning of that march to the end, witnessed really a historic moment, and I was concerned about the diversity, but it was there. It was there on the stage. It was in the audience. It was everywhere. And back to our future, looking at 50 years ago, what? It was young people who ran out of the classroom and went out there with Dr. King and others, and Robert Jackson and so many others.
When are we going to get serious? Keep it real, daily, with me, Al Sharpton.
Greetings, Detroit. This is Donnell White, your executive director of the Detroit branch NAACP, inviting everyone to join us on Sunday, May 6th at the Cobo Conference Center for the 63rd Annual Fight for Freedom Fund Dinner. It's an iconic assembly of people who believe in civil rights and social justice. Our keynote speaker is United States Senator Cory Booker. This is an event you cannot miss. For tickets, tables, and sponsorships, please call 313-871-2087.
Are you struggling to keep your water flowing? WFDF and the Detroit Water Department are here to help. To learn about lower monthly payments, payment plans, and more, text Get Help to 313131 or go to detroitmi.gov/DWSD today. Apply now. Text Get Help to 313131 or go online right now. Detroit Water works.
Breast cancer knows no boundaries, be it age, gender, socio-economic status, or geographic location. Register for the 27th Annual Susan G. Komen Detroit Breaks for the Cure, Saturday, May 5th at Comerica Park. To register and donate, visit ComenGreaterDetroit.org or call 248-304-2080. There's victory in every step. Join 9-10 a.m. Superstation as we broadcast live from the Race for the Cure.
There's always something new to talk about, and 910 AM Superstation wants to have you covered from every angle.
This is hard, because I love Billy Paul. We've been through so much stuff together. People don't know me. We got clean together. I've got 29 years of sobriety. Billy and I went through all that together. Remember when we were using and riding around, and we got stopped by the police on Greenfield, and Eddie and David Ruffin were with us. Some white officers were going to put us all in jail. Some black cop pulled up who was a patrol supervisor. But when he saw that it was Billy Paul, he let us all go. And I think that's about the point at which, both of us decided we need to do something. Because that same night, and we came back that morning, and police raided the house. Maybe 10 minutes after we both sat in the car and said, man, we got to stop this, man.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. If the conversation is hot and the lines are jammed, give us a try at 313-778-7600 or 313-778-7601. That's 313-778-7600 or 313-778-7601.
910 Superstation is off the chisane.
910 AM Superstation is the voice of Detroit, and we want to hear what you have to say by any means necessary.
Most people would think that a rock wouldn't bring kindness or joy to people's hearts, let alone an entire school. But at Stevenson High School, that's exactly the case. Kindness rocks are located in the counseling office on a blue bookshelf, and they feature inspiring messages such as keep holding on, laugh, joy, and smile. Mrs. Wojciniak, one of the advisors for the Stevenson NHS, who started the movement, has some words to say.
Students at Stevenson have really, I think, embraced the kindness rocks. I think they've really shown what we were hoping to accomplish with the whole Choose Kind theme, and it's been great to see. So the idea for Kindness Rocks came from our NHS students. Every year we have a theme for NHS, and this year the students came up with a Choose Kind theme, and it's taken off great.
910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I absolutely love this radio station. This station gets me through the work week.
And we don't just show love to the callers. We see the comments and the posts too.
I'm always on the go, so being able to watch all my favorite hosts on 910 AM mobile app is amazing.
So when you think of 910 AM Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. We're the hottest station in town. Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 AM Superstation. The most powerful voices in the urban community.
3, 2, 1.
You are listening to 910 AM Superstation. The future of radio. You are listening to 910 AM Superstation.
The best in the city.
The future of radio. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit, 910 AM Superstation, a division of WADL Media.
And good morning. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. My name is Robert Ficano. I'm joined in the studio with Scotty Boman and with I was going to call you Wayne County Commissioner. No, Police Commissioner Willie Burton has joined us. We have a special guest on our line, Mark Diaz, who is the president of DPOA, and a number of challenges that his membership is facing. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
We're glad to have you on. First of all, I know there are a number of issues that Detroit PD deals with every day, and your membership on the front line that has to deal with it. But one of the issues that has come up has been paintball, which I wasn't that aware of, other than I know when my son was growing up, he used to go to some kind of enclosed arena, and the kids for a birthday party would participate in these paintball contests, to fool around. Now I understand, though, it's in some of the streets, and now it's causing a public safety concern in some of the neighborhoods in the city of Detroit. Can you bring us in a little bit, you and perhaps Commissioner Burton, on what's going on with this?
Well, just putting it all in perspective, if we are talking about, we're talking about paintball guns, right? Where it seems that on the surface it seems to be something that's not very dangerous, but it does create a situation when you have people going around town that are shooting things out of what looks like a firearm from a distance. And accidents happen, and accidents can definitely happen when we're putting that type of an activity in a public setting where the general public isn't aware of what's happening, nor the police officers who are patrolling that area. And when, you know through your personal experience in law enforcement, when we see people shooting at each other, the officers don't have an opportunity to stop and ask them exactly what they're shooting at one another. So it's a very dangerous situation, and we have to get people to stop and really take a big step back and look at what they're doing and realize there definitely could be a serious cause and effect, if you will, for what they're doing.
Now, Mark, I understand that these guns that they use to shoot the paintball, it looks very realistic. Looks like a real weapon.
Some do. They have, generally they have a large cylinder that's attached to them as well. That makes it, it makes it look different than a regular weapon. But you're right. I mean, the general look of these paintball guns, it is very similar to a firearm. And so, as a police officer rolling up on a scene of people shooting at one another, which look like firearms, the officer's not going to have much of an opportunity to really find out whether these guys are trying to kill each other or whether they're playing games. So it's very dangerous and it needs to stop.
Yeah, I wanted to add that paintball guns could become even physically dangerous if you've got people shooting out of moving vehicles or people who are shooting at people in moving vehicles, because you add the speed that the paintball's already going when it leaves the the launcher to the speed of the vehicle. And like it was mentioned to me earlier, the commissioner brought up that some people had been shooting out of vehicles into oncoming traffic. Well, you're adding the speeds together of both vehicles and the speed of the ball coming out of the gun. And so now you got something that really could do physical harm hitting people, in addition to causing automobile accidents. And then, as you bring up, not just officers, but anybody who feels threatened may respond, and things can escalate into a much more violent situation. And the idea that people think this is somehow some kind of anti-violence activity, some people are trying to play it off that way, is ridiculous. It can escalate into worse violence.
Yeah, I guess I'll just go out there on a limb and say the words that really need to be said. It's just dumb. The things that could actually happen, I mean, the result of this is it could be, it's life-threatening. I mean, and if there's someone shooting into oncoming traffic, that can cause all kinds of other issues, and putting innocent people in jeopardy, putting their lives in danger, it's just stupid and foolish. And if people are going to continue to go down this road, then, we're going to have to take the enforcement action we're going to have to take. Hopefully it doesn't turn out to be a one-way gun battle, but while they're safe, it could happen. That's what makes it so foolish. So for people who are doing it, they need to stop.
Yeah, and Chief Craig, I heard, had a press conference on it right before the weekend started, and was asking people to just calm down about it and not to engage in it, especially in traffic with cars and vehicles. It happens that Scotty here teaches physics, so the propensity of how fast it's coming out, you don't realize until you get hit by one. Plus, if it actually is paint and it hits your vehicle, you're not going to be real pleased about it to begin with.
You may not be able to see. You might suddenly be blinded just by the paint splattering off a windshield.
Yeah, with the thing. Mark, tell us the state of your officers and some of the challenges they're facing in terms of not only dealing with mental health situations, but perhaps what they're telling you, the feedback on the streets, and how they're interacting with the public, and what's really going on.
Well, I'll tell you, our officers in Detroit are having, we're definitely facing more than our share of issues that range all the way from dealing with those with mental illness and the lack of support we've seen from the state government on that, well, even nationally speaking. Also, ranging all the way to wages and benefits for our police officers, and the list goes on. But I don't want to start a story off or start a conversation off by saying here are all the bad things. I'd like to talk about initially all of the good things. We just celebrated the 33rd annual Detroit Police Officer of the Year award ceremony this past Friday in Greektown down at the International Marketplace, and I'll tell you, it was a fantastic event. We honored 16 Detroit police officers for their acts of heroism and their giving to the community and putting their lives second behind the lives and the well-being of our citizens in the city of Detroit. And it was a wonderful event. And again, it just goes to the testament of what we've been saying all along. Our police officers don't become police officers to get rich. They don't become police officers because they're thrill seekers. They are there for a reason, and that reason is to protect and serve our community. And I'll tell you, it was just a fantastic event. We had so many people that joined us. Like Commissioner Burton, I understand, was there, and I apologize I didn't get to see you and come and shake your hand, sir. But it was a very well attended event, and it was just fantastic. So, starting off with with the good news there, let's segue right into the conversation about mental illness and what we're doing to try and get ahead of it, try to catch up to speed. As I heard earlier, Commissioner Burton mentioned the loss, and Mr. Ficano, you mentioned the loss of our facilities that are to treat those with mental illness. And today, as I sit here talking to you, we have lost, just this year in the United States, we've lost 48 police officers killed in the line of duty. Now, think about that number for a moment. This is just the end of April, and we've already lost 48 police officers killed in the line of duty in the United States. That is not acceptable. I'm not going to point a finger and say it was all a result of mental illness. A lot of those were a result of traffic accidents. A lot of those were a result of other type of accidents or incidences that happen in a law enforcement career. But so many of them were the result of an individual with mental illness. And the question comes: how do we categorize a police shooting as someone, the assailant is someone who was suffering from mental illness? I can just simply ask this one question of all of the listeners and you gentlemen in the studio: how many sane people do you know are going to go pull a firearm out and go kill police officers? There's something wrong there. It's not acceptable, and we have to get ahead of it. With the cutbacks in Lansing to funding our mental health facilities is back in the 90s under Governor Engler, that was a striking blow to the law enforcement community. And when I talk about the law enforcement community, I'm not just talking about police officers. I'm talking about the entire communities, all of the communities rather, throughout the state of Michigan. Specifically here in the city of Detroit because of our dense population, but this isn't unique to Detroit. This is an issue that runs throughout the entire state of Michigan. And we're losing places, we've lost, should I say, places where they were treating those with mental illness, and now they have nowhere to go. They're on the street with those with mental illnesses who have been, unfortunately, all too often cast aside by their own family members who aren't able nor equipped to deal with their loved ones' problems, and they end up on the streets. They end up on the streets, and they're confronting our citizens, they're confronting our police officers. These individuals have become, they are a danger to themselves and to others. And I see that as a public health issue that must be addressed by our political leaders in Lansing. And I'm not just picking on Lansing here. We still have to deal with this issue throughout the entire United States. In my dealings with other organizations that I sit on in the law enforcement world, we're dealing with this throughout the entire U.S. But here in the state of Michigan, this is where we need to start. And it's not just, like I said, it's not just a Detroit problem. This is a state of Michigan problem. And I thank you, Mr. Ficano and Commissioner Burton, for taking the time out and sitting on the committee to address this. Thank you guys very much.
Sure. And Mark, one of the things that a lot of people are not as aware of, but they're starting to become more aware of, is that since you don't have these facilities anymore, I mean, the most known was the Lafayette Clinic that was closed down back in the 90s, and in theory, you're supposed to have mental health centers that were supposed to open up, or at least service providers and things, and it's worked a wee bit, but not as good as it was planned to be done. And one of the issues is that in the Wayne County Jail today is probably the largest mental health facility in the state of Michigan, because if you have a problem, what happens, and you have a mental health problem, and you come in contact with the criminal justice system, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up in the jail. And it's probably the worst place for you because, number one, even if they wanted to bond you out, they can't bond you out to a street corner. I mean, they need addresses. If, they want to help people and it involves tether and things like that, because of their status and where they are, it's difficult for them to have a residence, and you can't just say it's going to be in a shelter. And there's all sorts of issues that crop up when they come in contact with the criminal justice system, and yet we haven't really addressed it fully on what are you going to do to make sure that the system takes care of them. And not there's plenty for the criminal justice system to do in dealing with mental health, especially in the jail. You can spend your resources better and have professionals take care of them versus law enforcement personnel that are trying to deal with it.
Our police officers we're equipped to assess a situation as quickly as possible. But we have to emphasize possible. When our officers are confronted by those who are suffering from mental illness, we only have split seconds to determine whether this person is, number one, a threat. And all too often, we have a person. You'll have a person with mental illness who might come off as a threat and be perceived as a threat, but they don't know. They're not capable of knowing. In so many instances, they don't know what they're doing is something that causes others to fear for their lives. And what's happened over the years, and just as you said, we have our justices, or should I say, our jails, becoming the facilities where these people are to seek treatment or to receive treatment. And that's not the place. That's the last place in the world we need them. It's just, in my opinion, it exacerbates the problem. We're putting those who are unable to care for themselves in a situation where their problems are becoming worse. And that is a problem that has to be addressed in Lansing. We have, for everyone who says they want to make the state of Michigan beautiful and go on about how great our state is, that is a huge problem they're not addressing. And we can sit here and talk about it all day long, but until we hold our elected officials to their feet to the coals on this, this problem is just going to continue. Again, I was a patrol officer back in the 1990s, and when Governor Engler made his changes in mental health resources, in the cutbacks there, it was almost like someone flipped the switch, and suddenly our police funds stopped being all about the D&E alarms, which sometimes were real. But now they're about having to address people with mental illnesses, and they would call them the mental runs, where we would have to pick people up, and depending on their whatever their circumstance might be, and all too often have to convey them to find a center where we could take them, so they're not a danger to themselves or others. And that was back in the 90s. Here it is, 2018, and I'll tell you, it's amazing how quickly we're actually burning through 2018. Here it is, the end of April, and this issue hasn't been addressed yet. So It's election year.
Yeah, that's the problem. It is election year, which is one of the problems, because anything to do with the mental health is going to mean a commitment of resources, and we just don't know if the legislature is going to go in that direction, because they see in election years that they tighten up with what they're going to spend money on, and it's going to go to special projects and not broad projects such as mental health. But
that's the part that absolutely that floors me right there, and I agree. Look, I am all about fixing the roads in the state of Michigan. I'm all about creating opportunities to make the state better, and I get it. I understand that the things they have to do as well in the budget. But when we're talking about things they have to do in the budget, we're talking about saving lives. When we're talking about mental health and mental illness, if that's not taken serious, then all the rest of it is all for naught. To be very blunt, if we're asking one another whether we're okay with throwing an extra $10 a year into a coffer as Michigan residents, and that $10 will specifically be used to help and treat those with mental illnesses who are walking around on our streets, and also often they're living in our neighborhoods, and we don't know. But if we don't make that resource available to them, then I'm sorry, the rest of it doesn't amount to anything in my mind. Okay. Just because we're talking about safety and we're talking about lives, and that is the most important thing there.
Mark, hold on. We have to go to break here. Sharon and Jean, you're going to be first up right after the break. You're going to be able to talk with Mark Diaz. You're going to have Police Commissioner Willie Burton, Bob Ficano, and Scotty Boman. We'll be back right after the break.
Every weeknight at 9 p.m. is something new and something fresh.
This is Todd Corser, and I want you to check out my show. Listen in and call every week as we explore government and hot topics. Tune in, raw and uncut.
This is Attorney Michael Schwartz at 9:10 a.m. Superstation, and you can hear me every Tuesday night starting at 9 p.m.
Hello, Detroit. This is Attorney Crystal Crittenden, and please tune in to my new show, The Truth Matters, on 9:10 a.m. Superstation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charlene Mitchell, your host of Mind Your Business. Listen to my show live every Thursday from 9 to 11 p.m.
I'm Reverend Maya Lisa Reynolds, inviting you to listen to Mama Maya Speaks Friday evenings from 9 until 11 p.m., discussing education, motivation, and inspiration on Superstation 9:10 a.m.
Different names, different voices, but the same energy. 9:10 a.m. Superstation, the voice of Detroit. Sundays on 9:10 a.m. Superstation is a collection of personalities like none other. Different names, different voices, but the same energy.
Arise and shine, for your light is come.
This is Elena Herrera.
Good morning, this is Robert Ficano. The Final Call Hour with Troy Muhammad on 9:10 a.m.
We got the topics, the guests, the opinions, and the facts.
Hello, this is Angela Moore. Please join me from 3 to 5 p.m.
Be sure to catch Doing the D with Alexander Zonchek from 5 to 7 p.m.
Listen to your girl, Princess Leah, on the Leah Live Show.
Detroit, this is Michael M. Hotel, the African History Network show.
This Pastor Mo, a.k.a. the Street Preacher, a.k.a. the Street Sweeper, from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina, and join me every day from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. for Sizzle and Talk.
It's right here on 9:10 a.m. Superstation. We are the future of radio.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. When I grow up, I want to be a glass countertop in a new home. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's best birthday present. When I grow up, I want to be a football stadium. When I grow up, I want to be a warm place on a cold day. When I grow up, I want to be a fancy backsplash. I want to be a bike that races around the country. When I grow up, I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I want to be a rocking chair on a sunny porch. I want to be a skyscraper. I want to be a When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. A public service advertisement brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
What are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
Well, what are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. Don't you remember me? Don't you know that we miss you?
Miss me? Who misses me?
You know, all your friends in the forest. The trees, the pond, that little fort that you made out of branches. We all miss you.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
The forest is not that far away. Have an adventure today. I'm sure your mom would take you.
You're right. I should get out. I want to have fun. Play in puddles, catch frogs, and climb trees. Hey, Mom!
Yeah, hon. Steven, what is that in your hand?
It's my sense of adventure, Mom. It's telling me we need to get out of the house and have some fun in nature today.
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
And good morning. You're listening to Robert Ficano here on 910 AM, the Superstation. I have with me in the studio today Police Commissioner Willie Burton, Scotty Boman from Wayne County Community College, and on the line we have Mark Diaz, who is the president of Detroit Police Officers Association, the union that represents the Detroit Police. We have a couple callers on. We'll take them right now. Sharon, you're on with Mark.
Good morning to everyone. I want to ask, the city of Detroit income tax money that's collected every year, how much of that money is paid, is given for the police officers and firemen in the city of Detroit toward the wages? And lastly, in the suburbs, what do the suburbs do to pay where they get the money from in the suburbs to pay their officers?
Well, there's a budget. There's a budget that's proposed by the mayor every year that's adopted by the council, and the police chiefs, or I should say, the police department's budget includes obviously the salary, health, and benefits of paying the police officers. Mark, I'm probably got more knowledge of that than I do.
Well, I got to tell you, I really like where this question is going because as Robert Ficano just got through saying, all right, there is a budget that comes out of the general fund every year, and it is approved by city council, and it's a sliding scale. It's not always the same. Once upon a time, 24 years ago, when I first became a patrol officer in Detroit, we had over 4,000 police officers, and as I'm speaking to you right now, as the DPOA president, I can tell you that I only have 1,600 Detroit police officers. And when you mention what other suburbs are doing, where they're getting their money from, it's a matter of how they're budgeting within their purview of what their needs are in their community, which I find intriguing. When I just received a phone call yesterday that Warren Police Department had opened up its doors for lateral transfers, meaning officers could leave whatever police department they're with, and based on their years of service, they can carry that over to to Warren Police Department if they should go over that.
So they were going to honor their seniority?
I'm not sure to the extent, but I know there's 5 years. There's 5 years were involved in there somewhere. But and I'm going to find out Monday all the particulars on it. But as I understand, there were over 30 of our Detroit police officers who were taking them up on that. So it's a problem we have here in Detroit where the suburbs are paying their police officers more. And I'm going to be very candid, and my feelings might get hurt by what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it. If we have a meeting scheduled with Mayor Duggan this Wednesday to have discussions about potentially improving the wages and benefits for our police officers in the city of Detroit. But it's going to have to be competitive with the suburban police departments, because the reality is, I understand Detroit has we have a great number of other services that have to be fulfilled, but when we're losing police officers at the rate we're losing police officers, and I'll give some staggering numbers on that in a moment, but when we're losing them at the rate we're losing our officers to other departments, I can tell you that if our elected officials don't put public safety first, they're not putting our citizens first. That is a fact. So yeah, and I get it that that may hurt feelings, but it's just a reality. And I guess I'm not into the big hugs and unicorns and rainbows, because we have to talk about the reality here. We just have to be honest with one another. And so when we're losing all these officers, and let me just give you the numbers. Since 2015, the city of Detroit has done a great job of hiring, right? We know that. The numbers are fantastic. Almost 800 new hires since 2015. But that is replacing the 800 who've actually left. That's twice the size of most police departments have left to the city of Detroit for other entities, other municipalities that have better pay and better wages and better benefits. So we have a problem to fix here. And we're confident in Mayor Duggan that we're going to have a solid conversation this coming Wednesday with the other police unions. But again, it's time to, the city of Detroit's not in bankruptcy anymore, so it's time to put up or shut up. And if we don't stop our officers from leaving, then I guess it's time we find someone else to sit in those seats.
We see this as a phenomenon that's happening in a lot of urban areas that, like the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, I know from personal experience and also from talking with Sheriff Napoleon and some of the others in there, that they're having a hard time recruiting officers to come in terms of the number of open slots that there are. Wayne County is willing to have slots open, and the strain that it puts on the system, because that sometimes you never want to go to ordered overtime, but sometimes, at least in a 24/7 operation like the jail, you got to have the officers there. There's got to be somebody there to be, watching the inmates. And that, with the shortage of personnel that you have, you can either transfer them in from the street, or you can order shifts over and things like that, which results in some of the burnout. And people say, oh, look, they're going to earn all this money and stuff like that from some of the overtime. It really creates family problems. It creates a lot of havoc on the shifts and things like that. It's not a place that you want to be if you got to start ordering overtime and you got to have those shifts covered.
Ordering overtime is a daily occurrence with the City of Detroit Police Department. That happens every single day. We are so shorthanded, and we can talk about budgeted numbers all day long, but I'm telling you that's very that's a number that the management comes up with, and I'm not taking a shot at them, but I'm just going to be blunt and say that management can say that they only need 2 cops in the City of Detroit, but the reality is we need 4,000. So when we have budgeted numbers saying that we may be 20 officers under budget in Detroit, that's garbage. I don't look at the budgeted numbers as reality. I look at what the neighborhoods are, what our citizens in the neighborhood, what they're saying, and what they're saying is we need more police officers. So again, management can say they can, they only need 4 officers on the street, but no, we know we need a hell of a lot more.
I think the reality that the urban areas really need to face is that even with equal benefits and equal pay, the attraction of areas where there's actually less of a need is stronger simply because of the reduced hazard, as opposed to an area where there's more crime and more problems, and therefore the job becomes more dangerous. So I think really, if anything, the city needs to not only match, but Detroit really needs to exceed what some of the neighboring suburbs are offering to turn this around. And I did want to hearken back to, in addition to the fact that mental health crisis has affected the safety of officers, I just looked up something on USA Today where they're mentioning that the mentally ill residents in general have a 16% higher chance of actually being shot by officers, probably due to misunderstandings, than an average person. So I think it's an additional significant reason why it's important that people like Willie Burton working on the mental health task force with Wayne State, need that we have people like that and that we do more to address that problem.
It's true. We have a number of callers. Gene, you're on with Mark Diaz, president of DPOA. Gene, you're on the air. Gene?
Hello?
Hi, Gene. You're on the air.
Oh, okay. It's Eugene. That's why I didn't answer.
Oh, okay.
That's
sorry.
I've had family members that now retired that served on the DPD, and I feel for the police, especially in dealing with the mentally challenged. You lock them up, and they'll soon be released and without getting help, and they'll be right back on the streets. I would love to know, and perhaps you guys know, what's the percentage of those arrested that are mentally disturbed versus just plain criminals? And one other thing I would like to ask, I would like to make a comment on. is this paintball issue, which has become part of the news this last few weeks. May not be a bad idea. Perhaps somebody can look into it. Why not organize neighborhood paintball leagues? Got enough empty parks and vacant lots, and it may give kids something to do, keep them off the streets, because I would much rather see them shooting paintballs and bullets, and perhaps that's something that should be given some thought. Low cost, you can regulate it, and maybe it will save some lives and give kids something to do.
Eugene, you raise an interesting issue with that. I mean, in terms of the recreation department, or even, I don't know how extensive Pal would get into something like that. You know, the more recreation you have is generally a better formula for the youngsters having something to do than them not having something to do. They used to say the most dangerous time was after 4 o'clock, 4 to 8, because the kids were out of school and they had nothing to do.
Amen. And summertime's coming up, and it's going to be a long, hot summer. We need to start thinking about that.
Okay. Well,
but
Eugene,
thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks for calling in. Willie?
You know, question for Union President Mark Diaz. It's always good talking with you, and you do so much on behalf of the memberships of DPOA. You know, I know when we are bringing on 30 new officers a month, I know in your mind, it's like, it has to be like one of the happiest occasions. You know, you get new members. But it also has to be a sad occasion when you look up, you know, end of the month or the end of the year, they're being recruited to another agency. And we're talking about the city of Warren, starting pay is like $54,000. And, you know, and it's like, we do a raise, 4% pay raise. That's what, just previous year and a half ago approximately, boosting our officers' pay from $31,000 like 36 and some change or 37. You know, and it's still not enough. You know, what is it going to take other than just, you know, giving officers more money, resources so they can do the job that they signed up to do, but also to retain them? What is it going to really, what is going to really take? Because it has to be a good occasion for you when you're bringing on new members, but then it has to be a sad occasion when you're losing them.
Well, if I may, quickly, I want to say that before I answer that, I want to comment on what Eugene had just said regarding creating an environment for the kids with the paintballs or the adults whomever are shooting paintballs at one another. And he's right. We do have a lot of resources throughout the city as far as I shudder to say we put people in vacant structures that are unsafe, but when we have skate parks going up throughout the city, I get it, there may be a little more liability when creating an environment for people to shoot paintballs at one another. But I also have been familiar with a lot of people who suffer from broken bones and things of that nature from going to the skate park. So I don't think that would be the problem. So I think that's a fantastic idea, Eugene, and really thank you for throwing that out there. And hopefully, it's something we can address with our council members and our leaders within our various neighborhoods throughout the city. I think that would be fantastic. So thank you.
Mark, you know what? There's always entrepreneurs out there. If enough people want to participate, you probably could have a private company come in and run the paintball, recreation aspect of this.
One of the things that makes Detroit that much more attractive to, we're trying to get people to move into the city, right? We're trying, we're really trying to rebuild Detroit, and this is just a great idea. And another of the great ideas of providing an environment for, as you just said, is that, for a place for the kids to go between 4 and 8 o'clock. I think that's a fantastic idea. But now switching gears and going back over to you, Commissioner, thank you so much for pointing that out. And I think it was Scotty that said a little while ago regarding officers are trading in their Detroit police uniform to go to another municipality where it is safer, less of a job hazard. And I can tell you in my 24 years of experience with DPD, I've never really found that to be the case where our officers leave for a quote-unquote safer environment. And I know that might sound crazy to your listeners, but the reality is when we take our oath rather to become a police officer, and especially here in the city of Detroit, we do so with the intention of going to a municipality that really, truly needs the help. And, we all become police officers with the intent to help others, to bring, to provide a safer environment for the people in those communities who are unable to provide that for themselves. And so I find that our officers who are leaving aren't necessarily our new officers who are coming through the academy, which is incredibly strange. I mean, that used to be the case. We get officers who would go to the police academy.
And you're the training ground for the suburban communities.
Got it. And then they leave and immediately go to a suburban department. That's not the case anymore. And I'm just going to put that shocking fact out there. We are losing, in the city of Detroit with respect to our attrition, we're losing not just our officers who become eligible to retire, but we're losing our officers in between 5 and 20 years of service. And we're leaving short of being eligible for a pension or a full service pension, which is striking. It seems incredibly odd why someone would leave, but the reality is the benefits in the city of Detroit are such that they do not sustain a family. And once upon a time, we used to be able to, be proud of the fact that, we were going to have solid benefits in retirement when, being a Detroit police officer. And we were making certain concessions with respect to wages throughout our careers so as to allow us to have some semblance of a decent lifestyle for us and our families when we retire. But that's not the case. With bankruptcy came the elimination of retiree health insurance. And guys, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not the dumbest either. The reality is when you tell someone you're not going to have retiree health insurance, they have to go somewhere else to find it. And that's what's happening here.
Yeah, because they're not retiring at 65. They're not retiring at 65. Where you can qualify for the Medicare, you actually have maybe a 5 or 10 year period. Yeah, you got to cover for that.
We need good legislation.
So why stay in Detroit where you're going to have a 10-year gap of not having health insurance? That's a detriment to you and your family, and it's an unfortunate reality. And here's the part that really gets me. And I'm sorry to cut you off, Commissioner, but here's the part that really just disturbs me to the core. We've exited bankruptcy on Monday, tomorrow. We're going to have the Financial Review Commission is going to have a discussion about going dormant, and leaving the reins to managing the fiscal health and the future of the city of Detroit in the hands of the mayor and his team has done a great job. But we have a $53 million surplus the year before last, and this year we're talking about maybe a $63 million surplus. The cost of retiree health insurance for all of our Detroit police officers and firefighters is $42 million. So when I look at those surpluses, I look at the retiree health insurance that was stripped away from our public servants. That's what that is. And if we don't get that back, guess what? We're going to continue down the same path of losing our experienced officers and having to rely on new police officers without the experience to protect our citizens. That is a dangerous situation. That is an incredibly dangerous situation. And if our political leaders in Detroit don't recognize that, well, we're going to have to do what we're going to have to do in the next election cycle.
Okay. John, you're on with Mark Diaz. I know you've been waiting a long time, President of DPOA. John?
Yeah, but good morning, Ficano and our famous great police officers. I want to thank them for their service also.
Thank you.
Sir, listen, you got to take it where it's not found there. Take it down there and Governor and Mike Duggan's left. That's where it's found is Moses and Rick Snyder. They're the ones that championed y'all to allow certain things by cutting your pensions and taking your pensions and so forth and so on. And it was necessary. I remind you that Jones Day, Duggan let that man beat him out of $500 million of taxpayers' money that we could pay our police officers. The citizens of Detroit are blind. They try to help to pay the police officer a good salary because they got a tough job to do. But you got to let Duggan know that he can't go around taking taxpayer dollars and not protecting it to the police department and so forth. And the fire department, that's another thing that he's lacking and so forth. And environmentally, we subsidize the sufferers and so forth without our tax dollars. We pay our tax dollars, but you got to go down there and get on the city council and Duggan, so they taking our tax dollars and just taking to give it to billionaires and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
So now, it's a shame
calling in. Mark, you got a comment on that?
I absolutely do. Thank you very much for calling in. You know, his passion echoes the sentiments of us police officers in Detroit and firefighters who feel the same way. But I do have to clear one thing up, and with all due respect, I will say that Mayor Duggan, he didn't. His hands were tied coming in when the city was going through bankruptcy, and he came into the tail end. And remember, he didn't have authority. It was the emergency manager was holding all of the cards there. And the interesting point, a lot of people did not know, Jones Day had never negotiated, and I'm using air quotes when I say that. They never negotiated with a public safety.
Jones Day was the law firm that shepherded through the bankruptcy.
You got it. And you know, obviously we have the comfort, if you will, of retrospect, but the reality of what really happened in bankruptcy, I can go on and on. As being the president of the union, I was actually the chairman of the police and fire retirement system, going through bankruptcy when they were saying our pension systems were so underfunded. That was just an absolute farce. But we're stuck with dealing with the fallout and from bankruptcy. And here's a fiscal mismanagement. And I'm not going to, that's another segment we can probably spend, more than 2 hours talking about in the future. But coming to today and where we are with respect to our public safety in the city of Detroit, it's, you can't help but recognize the hard work we've had, our men and women are putting into ensuring the citizens of the city are safe, and everyone who visits the city are safe. Again, we are operating on a skeleton crew. With 1,600 police officers, I know the numbers are related to in the media are 2,400, but those aren't the frontline police officers. That includes supervision and the executive staff, which I get it, they're an integral part of the system. But we're talking about the people who are out there on the front line answering your call for service in your time of need. Those numbers are we're operating in, like I said, a skeleton crew is an understatement there.
Okay.
Go ahead. One of the things that I can say is that when we all was elected in 2013 and took office in 2014, we walked in to emergency management, and looking at the bankruptcy here, we was one of the fastest cities to come up out of the bankruptcy. And just looking at our police and fires and looking at all that union has given up doing the collection bargaining, I would love to see that, your members, get back with you guys, has fought for and stood for.
And it's going to be a balancing, too, because we're talking about police and fire, but also the city's going to have to deal with AFSCME and all the other unions, too, that lost, a number of their pensions and things like that. So this is not going to be an easy challenge with it. Theo, you're on with Mark Diaz, president of DPOA. Theo?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you're on the air, Theo.
Happy Sunday to all of you. I'm calling because I have not heard anything about the cost to train the new recruits who get experience, put their names on the list in the city where they live, and wait their turn. While we in the city of Detroit are paying anywhere from, $3,000, $4,000, $4,500 to train them. They do not pay for the training. We lose here in the city because they come for that purpose. There are too many of them who are leaving once they get trained. And there has been one attempt that I'm aware of to have new recruits pay for their training. But apparently it did not stick for whatever reason. So what are you doing, if anything?
Well, Theo, first of all, Theo, to understand the system, you have to go through an academy to become a certified police officer. That's mandated by the state of Michigan.
True, I have no problem with that.
And
I'm talking about us paying for their training and then them leaving the city of Detroit to work in the city where they reside.
Well, Mark can articulate this better than I, but he's saying that the issue isn't now that the young recruits are leaving once they're out of the academy. It's more the 5 to 10 year person that's leaving the Detroit Police Department. Mark?
Yeah, that's spot on. You nailed it. But going back to that question, what is being done to prohibit or stop people from leaving the City of Detroit Police Department once once they get to the academy? The reality is, we are one of, outside of the schools, the colleges, the Detroit Police Department and the Michigan State Police Department are two of the last departments in the state who actually, when we hire someone to become a police officer, we train them.
Yes.
So from day one, they're being paid, and we put them on the payroll, and they're on the books as, well, the city carries them as in their numbers as police officers, but they are designated student police officers at that time, and they're being compensated. Well, like Commissioner Burton said, about $36,000 a year with their benefits. And that's great, right? So no one else is offering that. So, of course, that makes coming to the Detroit Police Department and going to our academy very attractive, as opposed to somebody coming out of their own pocket and paying for that. But you asked a question about the cost. And we can talk about the cost of a person, what they're making directly, which, again, you can look at this academy is 6 months long, so you take half of 36,000, you're looking at 18, and $18,000. But you also have to factor in the benefits they're receiving, and that starts driving that cost up a little more. And then you have to factor in the number of of professionals we have to employ to train them to be Detroit police officers. So that number is coming up over $40,000 a year, and
that's per person.
Training one person, you got it.
Right.
And so we're not losing. I was saying earlier, we're not losing those guys, out the front or out the back door as soon as they come to the front. That's no longer our biggest concern. And don't get me wrong, it's an issue. The biggest problem we have is the experienced police officers. I have, and just putting it in perspective, I have 800 of my members I represent from the union with less than 5 years seniority. Think about that. I have 1,600 members. Half of them have less than 5 years. So we're not losing all the guys who are coming on to be Detroit police officers. We're losing them out the back end, but out the back door. Or we're losing them as they get further in their career with 5 to 20 years of service. So that just is a huge testament to a dangerous situation we have. And not to take a shot at my new officers, but the reality is you have to have experience. You have to have on-the-job training. Anyone can read a book about being an astrophysicist and, wow, that sounds great, but can you actually go and practice? Right?
Okay, we have a number of callers. Theo, thanks for calling in. We're trying to get to as many as possible. JT, you're on with Mr. Diaz. Go ahead, JT.
How you guys doing today? How's
Good.
everything?
Excellent. What's your question, JT?
Yeah, President Diaz, you know what it is. We'll talk later. You know what? If you want to know the answers to the Detroit Police Department, he has the answers. He just summed it up. And some people leave just because they just don't believe in the place anymore, because they just leave them hanging when they're in a situation. They just leave. I worked there for 18 years, and they say they're hiring 160, and they won't tell you that 400 or 500 are leaving. So they don't tell everything, and it has nothing to do with President Diaz, because he's all that, and he will tell you the truth. He knows the answers. I'll talk to him. Hey, Fred, I'll catch you later. All right.
Okay, thanks, JT. Sylvia, you're on with Mr. Diaz.
Oh, happy Sunday. The big issue and the big elephant in the room seems to always be the budget, and there's no money, right?
That's always a challenge, yes.
Yes. Well, if you look up the CAFA swindle, that's Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It's called the CAFA swindle. If you look up the documentary, they are saying that your government is in cahoots with corporations, and they're stealing our tax money. They're putting them on offshore accounts, and they're investing them in domestic and foreign stock markets. So if indeed this is true, and they keep telling us there's no budget for this and there's no budget for that, it's no wonder why we don't have adequate policing, safety, protection, education, clean water, housing, and the list goes on the austerities that's being caused.
Sylvia, you raise a point. We have a number of callers. We appreciate it. A more direct point might be that obviously Detroit, with its comeback, some of what they've had to do is give up some of their tax base for the location of some of the companies to come in. That means the taxes that might normally have, gone towards the general budget are being sacrificed because they want the businesses to come in and locate and in theory, bring jobs in, which is a difficult thing because your membership is expected to protect these businesses. At the same time, the tax base might be eroded a little bit, at least temporarily, because you're bringing the businesses in, and the money's going to the developers instead of staying on the tax roll.
No, you got it. That's exactly right. And the theory and the logic behind getting the businesses, enticing them to come in, it makes sense. I get it, and I don't think anyone can really, turn their nose up to it. But when we look at some of these businesses and the money that they're, the millions of dollars they're being forgiven, if you will, it's definitely a hard pill to swallow. But again, we do have a sound fiscally sound management team here in the city of Detroit, and we have to trust in our elected leaders to manage the city right and to set that foundation going forward.
Okay, last couple callers, real quick, from Mr.